Hello, it is Mel from Digital Reach, and I'm once again here with Mandy Thompson to talk about how much wonderful work HubSpot can do for nonprofits, specifically this time talking about how you can nurture donors. So, Mandy, brief overview. We've already talked about data collection, reporting, forecasting. We've talked about how important it is to manage all of your donors. How does the nurture aspect fit into those other critical components?
Yep, they do really build on each other. So we get all of our donor information into one system. And the beautiful thing about HubSpot is basically we can segment our lists based on any data point that we have in the system, and we can condition those data points. So what I mean is, let's say a data point is amount of last donation. So we can say, okay, put anyone who that amount is more than 100 on this list, less than 50 on that list. But we can also say is known, is not known, was last updated 5 days ago, 10 days ago. So we can not just, use that data point of the last amount donated, but we can condition that data point in different ways. And we can segment people onto lists. And once we put you on a list, we can personalize the emails you get, the landing pages you see, the CTAs you receive, all sorts of other things. So it is the natural progression of we have the data able where we can analyze it. And now that we've analyzed the data, we can decide how we want to segment people based on that data to personalize their journey.
And to implement those personalizations and to segment those people, is there a particular hub or tier of HubSpot that you need to get the most out of that?
Yes. For all nonprofits, get Marketing Hub Pro, save yourself the time. Your marketing team is lean and scrappy, and this is going to save so much time and increase your effectiveness exponentially, because all you have to do is build a workflow or 2 or 3. And so you might spend some time planning those out, but then in perpetuity, it's going to move people into the right groups, give them the personalized experience. And so getting Marketing Hub Pro is what it takes to do that. So if you want to, any automation related to marketing requires Marketing Hub Pro. If you want to connect your SEO, that's Marketing Hub Pro. If you want to connect social media, that's Marketing Hub Pro. So get into Marketing Hub Pro, because that's what's you cannot send a single automated email in HubSpot without Marketing Hub Pro. Okay, you can send something when someone fills out a form and send them a plain text email. But if you want to automate marketing emails, welcome series, nurture people automatically, get them on list, off list, calculate their properties, all of that stuff, you'll need Marketing Hub Pro. And it is, especially you get 40% off. So I believe that puts it at a starting price of $480 a month, which is so reasonable for all of the power. Like, if you're not getting at 3 times that just in the amount of work someone doesn't have to do, then you're not using the tool right. It is a big time saver. But yes, you need Marketing Hub Pro to really do that automated nurturing. You could do it manually. You could create your lists manually. You could have active lists that add people dynamically. And then when you want to run an email, you turn it into a static list and you do that manually. So you can segment and nurture with Marketing Hub Starter. But every email has to be sent by a manually scheduled. You can schedule. It's not like you have to send now. It's like any good email tool. But you have to actually go through and set each of those up every time.
Right. And whether you're looking to do something manually or automate, though obviously automation, I would say, is the way to go.
Yeah.
There are other tools that people use. When we think of nurturing, we think of email campaigns and higher touch marketing campaigns. And there are other tools that nonprofits often turn to for those things. Think Mailchimp, Constant Contact. When is it time to switch to HubSpot? When is HubSpot the right answer for optimizing your nonprofit marketing and management?
Great question. So a couple of things, because you make a good point with Mailchimp. Mailchimp allows you to connect some ad activity as well. So Mailchimp is trying to be a CRM. It's definitely not a CRM, but they're trying, and they've increased their functionality. I think they've done a great job. And of course, when they were acquired, that's going to help them only continue to grow in that direction. But what makes HubSpot stand out here, so there are a few things. Again, if we're looking at segmentation and how dynamic we can be, HubSpot's like grad school, PhD level, and Mailchimp is maybe like high school. Like you can do some cool stuff. I can take you, like we have some conditions we can move people on and off of lists for. But again, like on a scale of 1 to 100, it's like a 15 and HubSpot is 100. You know, like the number of data points and how we can condition people and move them on and off a list. Number one, it's way easier. And number two, it's way more powerful. So I would say when you are ready to segment more and when you have the bandwidth to personalize the journey more, because again, all of those smart content options based on all of these lists are so much easier, and you can do your experiments and everything right inside of HubSpot. I know that for emails, Mailchimp has some A/B testing, and I believe they have some landing pages, but the way that you can act on all of that information, report on it, and then in campaign, someone's engaging now, let me segment them and get them to something more relevant if they're starting to engage and take this action. So the level of personalization and the number of data points you have to use for your segmenting just goes way up with HubSpot.
So let's talk about the outcomes of those things, because there are a lot of options that we have in personalization and how to nurture. And we can talk about that until the cows come home. But like, what is the end result of leaning on HubSpot to put those things into action?
Well, the more segmented and personalized you can be, the more likely somebody's going to be to donate, right? So rather than, for example, we can have campaigns that are activated based on someone not donating for a period of time or having just donated, right? Because if someone, let's say you just have your regularly scheduled thing going that's not dynamic in a Mailchimp or a Constant Contact, and we're about to send out an appeal, but this person just donated yesterday. Might we want to account for that? And because they just donated yesterday, suppress them from that appeal, right? So we can set that up and say, send this to everyone on this list unless this thing has happened, right? Like, let's make a condition so that we really give the best experience. Because like in all things in life, the more we feel taken care of, the more we want to take care of, right? And so how do we make people feel taken care of? We celebrate them for the things that they donate. So for example, something you can do with HubSpot that you cannot do with Mailchimp, hook in a tool like postal.io and send somebody a nicely branded t-shirt when they donate, when they reach a certain donation level, right? You can do that automatically through HubSpot so that we can, again, you reached this thing. You don't have to wait until Mel pulls a list and realizes you reached it. Like real time, you reach it, 5 minutes later, you've got an email. Thank you, Mel, for donating $250 to Save the Chimps this year. We're so grateful for donors like you. Donors like you allow us to do this, this, and this. So shouldn't we say something different to someone who donates $250 to someone who donates $25,000? Maybe the person who donated $25,000, we show them a totally different message on what their money does, right? Because if you tell someone who donated like $25,000, we could buy more bananas. So like, we better do a lot more than buy bananas. I donated $25,000 to you, right? I'm not saying that people think of it like that, but like we can be in line at scale, right? So if you want to be able to scale those donations and you want to be able to personalize that experience and scale the personalization, right? That's what HubSpot allows you to do, because the more personalized, like when it's like, hey, Melissa, you've donated $150 this year. And if you donated $100 more to reach $250 and become a silver tier donor, we'll be able to do this. You're way more likely to donate to that email than one that's like, hey, Melissa, we really need bananas this month and the chimps are hungry, so donate more money to us. Like, you'll care about that. But if it's like, Melissa, you've donated $150. If you donate $100 more, you'll reach $250, which will make you a silver donor. We're sending you this shirt and little, like, we know that you've looked at content with this particular chimp, so we're going to show you that chimp. And like, so those are the types of things that we can do to personalize, which increases the amount that people donate. So at the end of the day, a nonprofit needs to think better nurturing, more personalization, more donations for our cause.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's something we forget about when we're putting together, marketing emails and text messages and everything to go out, that there's a person on the other end of that who wants to also feel like their contributions were singular and important and critical to your cause. So being able to personalize something and say, hey, I remember that you donated $200 a while ago. Let's do that again. That was cool. It's super helpful to the person on the other end. And I think something that enables those features in HubSpot are all of the custom properties that you can have, right? Actually keep track of people's information. Can we talk a little bit more about those and how customizable they truly are for nonprofits?
Absolutely. And the way to think about custom properties, because they are so powerful, is so with custom properties, let's first look at how you can work with them and how easy they are to set up, right? So custom properties, we can do text, single line text, multi-line text, single checkbox, multi-checkbox, drop down, radio select, date pickers, file uploads, calculated properties, scoring properties. So we have all of these properties. So let's think about that. Number one, we can set all those up. Number two, based on the value of one property or any information HubSpot has, we could set the value of another one. And then setting the value of another one causes the segmentation to happen for personalization. So we can hook together all of these different actions like dominoes, right? So like this happens, which causes that to happen, which causes that to happen, and then that, right? So like the custom properties, number one, we can build the database that we want. A custom property can be the trigger for a workflow that updates another custom property. A property can be updated in a workflow. So this allows us to not only create our data architecture, but it allows us to create properties that are just there for segmentation, right? So if somebody, visits a particular chimp's page more than 3 times, we're going to check a box saying that that's the chimp they like. And then we can segment lists based on who likes what chimp and personalize their messaging based on that particular chimp, right? And so all of these custom properties, like I have a custom property preferred chimp, and then I have all their names, and then I have a workflow that is triggered by if they view, this chimp's page more than 3 times, mark that they like this chimp. Maybe we do a multi-checkbox for that, right? Because maybe they like multiple chimps, and we can use that information and segment by people who have more than one value selected for that property. So we know they like multiple chimps as opposed to focusing on just one, and we market to them differently. Maybe the people who like just one, we only show them that one chimp, and the people who like many, we show them, we always show them a group of chimps because we know that they like many of the chimps. And so we can, just kind of stuff like that, which might seem a little like nitty gritty or nuanced, but can actually make a really big difference in your marketing. So the custom properties allow us to set up that data framework for reporting, but also for triggering and conditioning our workflows for that list segmentation so that we can personalize. And then with calculated properties, this is where the example I gave. So we did a really good video on this. We should definitely share it at the end of last year, where basically if you have a year-end appeal, we can use calculated properties to do a few things. So let me give an example. This will be the simplest example. Let's say we want to ask everybody to give 10% more than their biggest gift this year, right? So I can make a calculated property that the value of that property is 110% of whatever Mel's largest gift was, right? So we could go through some workflows to get that largest gift, whatever. Or we could say just her last donation, right? So do 110% of that amount. And then I could say, hey, Mel, would you donate this? And then if I wanted to be really fun, I could have another custom property that is, what is the calculation of that number that's 110% of your biggest gift and what you've given so far? So I could say, hey, Mel, if your last one was $100, if you give $110 to me today, then you will have given us this much for the year. So again, we're using custom calculated properties to give Mel a highly personalized experience around the exact numbers that you have donated, which, speaking to what you said earlier, that makes you feel like an individual, not just a number. You're not just someone we're asking for $100 from. We're asking you for, and the more obscure the number, the better, right? So maybe make it 117.6% so that, political campaigns are notoriously good at this, right? Like, Mandy, if you give $242.98 today, we can stop this from happening, right? And you're like, oh man, I got to do it because I need to stop that from happening. So similar type of thing, that feels very personal, right? Like, did you ask everyone for $247.98 or was that like something related to right? So it's like based on what you did last time, if you did this time, we'll have this outcome. That feels so for you, right? So that's another, custom properties, I could go on and on about them. They are, in my opinion, that is the foundation of what makes HubSpot so powerful, because while workflows are amazing, without custom properties, that is what makes the workflow tool in HubSpot as wonderful as it is that it has all the functionality as it has with the custom properties you make. Not only what's natively baked into the system, but anything you add gets the same functionality and the same. It's very much a democracy, right? Like everybody gets the same rights. Custom properties, native properties, all properties, they get the same capabilities in the system no matter what.
I'm with you. Properties are probably my favorite thing to talk about, especially from a content perspective because of how personalized things can be. And when you look at tools, we often think about technology as kind of separating us from the humanity of our marketing or from like the human touch. But I think that's what's so great about HubSpot in this case is that it actually gives you more of an opportunity to connect to another person, human to human, through all of these donor nurturing functions and features that are within HubSpot.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Mandy, for talking us through all of these. I'm looking forward to talking to you about some more features about how HubSpot can help nonprofits. And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Mel.